My name is Ava Bennett. I'm 31, and as of 9:07 a.m. this very morning, while the whole country watched my father's Supreme Court confirmation hearing on C-SPAN, I found out he and my mother siphoned every last dollar my grandparents left me to bankroll his climb up the marble steps of power. I'm standing in a Union Square coffee shop, secondhand blazer still smelling like subway steel, when my phone lights up with a message from Malcolm Reyes, the junior auditor. Nobody at my mother's charity ever notices. They stole everything. Check your email. Don't call me on company lines. The weight of those 3 sentences hits harder than the espresso I'm pretending to sip because they land on top of a truth I've ignored for years in my family. The shine on the surface is always paid for with someone else's bruises, and lately, the bruises have all been mine. Let me back up a breath because stories like this only make sense when you see the pretty facade first. Dad is Judge Richard Bennett, the silver-haired poster child for integrity on the bench, a man who can stop a Senate chamber with one raised eyebrow. Mom is Victoria Bennett, Manhattan Gala royalty running the Horizon Foundation, the kind of nonprofit that uplifts underprivileged youth while serving crystal to donors on yachts. My kid sister Sloane, sparkling unstoppable Sloane, is 3 years deep into her residency at Johns Hopkins. Debt-free driving the white Tesla. Dad surprised her with last Christmas. And me, I'm the older one, the steady one, the civil engineer who left a cushy firm to gamble on a green tech startup building sponge concrete sidewalks that soak up floodwater. My parents call it my little company the way other people say little league. For years, I've hustled investor meetings by day and door-dashed Thai noodles by night to make rent on a shoebox apartment in Brooklyn, always telling myself that grit was character and freedom. But right now, blue loading circle pulsing on my phone, I'm realizing grit is what's left over when someone else drains your safety net and tells you you never needed it anyway. Malcolm's email pops up an encrypted link to Horizon Foundation's ledgers. I click. Lines of numbers scroll like a warped stock ticker transfers from the Eleanor and Samuel Bennett Educational Trust. Yeah, my trust into something labeled Community Medical Scholars Program. I know that program. It's the scholarship Mom announced the same week Sloane decided to specialize in cardio-oncology. At the bottom of the ledger, another column routes cash into a shell pack called Judicial Futures Initiative. That one appears on the news crawl every time lobbyists talk about grassroots support for Dad's nomination. Dollars from Grandpa's machine shop fortune money meant to fund my future are propping up billboards with Dad's face and the slogan, "Justice You Can Trust." Right on cue, the barista calls my name Ava Oat Milk Latte like it's any regular Tuesday, and the TVs above the pastry case switch from weather to the live feed of the Senate hearing. There's Dad granite-jawed raising his right hand. Mom beams in the row behind him, pearls glued to her collarbones. Sloane sits beside her, eyes bright as if the spotlight itself is her birthright. No one ever sees me on these broadcasts. I'm the daughter who knows how to stay off-screen, how to make myself small so they can loom larger. I step into the restroom, lock the door, and bite down on the edge of my thumb until I taste copper. Malcolm's chat bubble blinks again. Safest move is to lawyer up now. I'll testify if I have to. They forged your consent form. Time-stamped PDF attached. I've wondered for months why my startup pitch deck got laughed out of every venture office when they ran background checks. Turns out the Bennetts listed assets I didn't know existed, then leveraged them as collateral. On paper, I look like a trust fund kid trying to double-dip investors. Something inside me snaps, not a clean break, more like a hairline fracture suddenly widening. I yank the silver bonsai sequoia pendant from under my shirt, the last gift Grandma Nellie pressed into my hand before she died. She told me real sequoias grow taller than city skylines if you let their roots roam. But bonsai is training a giant to live inside a tiny pot. Clip it enough times and the tree forgets how to reach. I stare at the little branches, and for the first time it dawns, my parents have been pruning my life the same way. My breathing slows. I remember every time Dad praised my practical choices, every time Mom reminded me stability is a blessing. They weren't being supportive, they were keeping the pot small. I wipe my lip, smooth my jacket, and call Catherine Wu, the only attorney I trust, an asset recovery specialist who once pro bonoed a case for climate startup founders after their VC ghosted them. She answers on half a ring. The calm in her voice is a life raft. I tell her about the ledger, the fake consent form, the trust. She whistles low. Ava, if those documents are real, we're talking fraud, breach of fiduciary duty, FEC violations. This could tank a Supreme Court bid. I glance at the mirror. My reflection suddenly looks like a weapon I didn't know I carried. Catherine says, first step, secure originals of every doc before they start shredding. Second, freeze the trust. Third, decide how public you're willing to go. She pauses. And I need you to understand, taking down a would-be Supreme Court justice, especially your own father, means stepping into a hurricane on live TV. I exhale. He already put me in the storm. I'm just deciding whether to raise the lightning rod. Catherine laughs, soft but fierce. Pack an umbrella, girl. We've got work. We set a meeting for tonight. She'll bring a notary, I'll bring Malcolm's files, and the bonsai pendant as proof of provenance. Grandma's name etched on the back is the one thing Dad can't forge. I drop the phone into my pocket. Then, because revenge is best served with impeccable timing, I march out of the restroom, scroll through my contacts, and tap Sloane. She picks up on the first vibration, whisper giddy from inside the hearing room. Ava, can you believe it? They're already calling Dad Justice Bennett in the hallway. Her voice sparkles like champagne. I swallow the acid in my throat and say, I believe it. Listen, I need you to step outside. 10 minutes. Alley behind the Senate office building. Alone. She hears the steel beneath my words. The fizz drains out of her reply. Is everything okay? Depends how fast you come. I say, then hang up before she can spin excuses. I ditch the coffee, yank my backpack over one shoulder, and bolt for the subway. As the train rattles toward Penn Station, I craft the speech I'll give my sister how this isn't her fault yet, how complicity begins the second she chooses silence over truth. I rehearse the beats, show ledger, produce forged consent. Drop the phrase federal prison softly enough to scare but not paralyze. Heat rushes through my ribs, equal parts fury and adrenaline. My startup partners once joked I negotiate like a demolition expert, quiet until the final countdown, then boom. Today, I'm setting timers on the whole Bennett empire. Climbing the escalator at Penn, I catch my reflection again. Same olive jacket, same frizz, escaping the braid, but my eyes look new, like someone who just remembered sequoias aren't meant to stay miniature. I step into the Amtrak concourse destination DC, and as I scan for the next train, a fresh message pings from an unknown number. Stop digging or the tree gets uprooted. Attached is a photo of my apartment door deadbolt cross-hatched in red spray paint. For a second, the crowd noise blurs, and I'm 10 years old hearing Dad say judges make enemies. But I steady. They think threatening my tree scares me. They don't realize the pot broke the moment I saw those ledgers. I text Catherine the photo, and she replies with 3 words, Game on, Ava. I board the train, heart thundering, and as the doors hiss shut, I swear the pendant warms against my skin like Grandma whispering, let it grow. The train lurches south, carrying me toward a face-off that could rewrite not just my future, but the nation's. Outside, the winter sun glints off Hudson River ice. Inside, I open Malcolm's files again, noting every transaction, every signature, every timestamp ammunition for the hearing room battle I plan to ignite. In 4 hours, I'll confront Sloane. In 8, I'll hand evidence to Catherine. By dawn, I might be the reason half the country gasps at breakfast. But right now, rolling steel wheels drum a promise beneath my feet, a rhythm that sounds suspiciously like freedom cracking through porcelain soil. And somewhere in that relentless clatter, a question beats louder than fear. How tall can a sequoia grow when nobody's trimming the edges anymore? I don't have the answer yet, but trust me, by the time this ride hits Union Station, I'll be ready to find out. By the time the train slides under the Potomac and into Washington Union Station, the sky over DC has turned the blunt gray of an unshined coin, and the city feels wound tight like every marble column and security barrier is holding its breath for tonight's primetime vote. I step onto the platform, carrying nothing but my backpack, Malcolm's flash drive tucked inside my shoe in case anybody gets frisk-happy, and the bonsai sequoia pendant resting like a pulse against my collarbone. The moment my feet hit the concrete, a memory blindsides me. Visiting the Capitol as a kid, Dad pointing out the dome and telling me integrity is what holds that thing up, not the steel. Back then, I believed him with the whole simple faith of a 9-year-old. Tonight, I'm planning to prove how badly steel can twist when the wrong hands weld it. I cut through the station crowds, hop a Lime bike, and ride south down First Street, cold wind needling my cheeks while the Supreme Court silhouette rises ahead like a ghost. Sloane's text pinged 20 minutes ago. I can slip away at 4:30. We'll meet you. No emojis, no punctuation, just raw tension leaking between the letters. It's 4:27. When I ditch the bike behind a trash compactor and slip into the service alley that runs behind the Hart Senate office building, steam curls from a vent smelling of detergent and old coffee grounds. I hide my shaking hands in my pockets and count my breaths. This meeting could flip either of us from bystander to collateral damage in about 3 sentences. Boots click on asphalt. Sloane appears still in her ivory blazer Senate guest badge swinging like a pendulum. For a heartbeat, she just stares. And I see 3 versions of her at once: the sister who used to beg me for piggyback rides, the woman who gives orders in the ICU, and the daughter polished for camera crews. Ava, she whispers like she's afraid our own names might be bugged. I hand her the flash drive duplicate. Plug that into any laptop and tell me if you can still applaud Dad. She snatches it, thumbs trembling, then scans the shadows like a spy who's watched too many thrillers. Where did you get this? I tell her the short version: Malcolm, the forged consent form, the PAC transfers, while her face drains from peach to forgotten snow. When I mention the Cayman account tagged to Mom's social security number, her knees actually wobble. I step forward in reflex to catch her, but she flinches back like my touch might set off alarms. They said the scholarship money came from private donors, she says, voice cracking on donors. They said you didn't want the trust that you told them green tech should bootstrap itself. The lie hits like a slap, but I swallow the sting. They needed you complicit, I say. Nice people rarely check the wiring when the lights stay on. She clutches the drive. If this is true, and I'm not saying it is going public, could crush Dad's confirmation, put Mom in prison, tank Horizon's funding, ruin hundreds of real community clinics. Her moral algebra clacks like a calculator, one family versus countless beneficiaries. I lean in so she can smell the espresso still on my breath. There's no cure in medicine for a system that treats fraud as philanthropy. If you keep quiet, you're just another white coat in their photo op. Sloane looks away, eyes shining with the same tears she swore she'd never shed in surgery. She pockets the drive without another word and sprints back toward the staff entrance. I can't tell if she's running to confirm my data or to warn our parents. Either way, a fuse has been lit. I head toward Catherine's DuPont Circle office, on foot, sorting Plan A from Plan B. The sidewalks hum with post-work chatter, lobbyists in tailored wool brushing shoulders with homeless vets wrapped in Mylar. That jagged contrast is exactly why my concrete startup exists, to keep rainwater off both their heads. But in this town, ideals get auctioned daily, and I feel the city's cynicism trying to seep into my shoes. I tighten my grip on the pendant. The tiny tree reminds me growth can start in hostile soil. Catherine's building is all glass and steel, nothing like the oak-paneled firms Dad reveres. She waves me past reception straight into a war room smeared with yellow legal pads. Malcolm's real files sit on the table, along with a separate stack marked confidential bank statements she subpoena drafted right after our call. She's in motion before I finish sitting. Judge Bennett's hearing resumes at 8 p.m. They'll hold the final vote at 10, unless new evidence forces adjournment. That gives us 5 hours. She plots like a general Step 1 file an emergency motion in D.C. District Court to freeze the trust and issue a preservation order on Horizon's servers. Step 2, deliver a sealed dossier to Senator Grace Lang, Chair of Judiciary, whose staff can stall the vote under the guise of due diligence. Step 3, leak just enough to Tyler Nash at ProPublica to guarantee cameras point the right way. We can't rely on one lever, she says. We pull them all same time so nobody gets chance to cut the rope. I ask what she needs from me. An affidavit, she says, every memory of pressure. Every email where they nudged your choices signed under penalty of perjury. They'll attack your credibility the moment this surfaces. I nod and start dictating dates conversations, those subtle digs Mom made about Dr. Engineer the day Dad called my startup pitch eco-fantasy. With each detail, my voice steadies until it borders on calm. Recounting wounds sometimes cauterizes them. Midway through, Catherine pauses. You sure you're okay with scorched earth? There's no partial burn in a story this flammable. I picture Dad's stoic oath on the TV Mom's charity gala where she toasted Public Trust Sloan's scholarship plaque engraved with my grandparents' names. Then I picture the spray paint slash across my apartment door. They fired first, I say. I'm just showing the crater. It's 6:40 when we step outside to hand the sealed envelope to Senator Lang's aide. Snow has started thick flakes swirling under streetlights. The aide, mid-20s nervous smile, tucks the package under her coat like a newborn and disappears into a waiting SUV. Catherine and I split then. She heads to court filings, I head to Malcolm's safe house, a windowless basement office behind a Bolivian bakery in Columbia Heights, where the smell of frying empanadas masks any conversation. He's pacing when I arrive, phone in one hand, burner in the other. First thing he blurts is, "Your dad's people know someone leaked the PAC receipts. Horizon just fired half my team, pending an internal review." His eyes are bloodshot. I could lose my CPA license, Ava. I thank him for his spine and slide over the notarized whistleblower protections Catherine filed. He signs. Why do this, I ask. He bites his lip, then drops a bomb I never saw coming. Because Judge Bennett's my bio dad, too. Summer intern. 1991, your mom never knew, or maybe she did. He paid hush money till I turned 18. Then nothing. My ears ring. Suddenly, the audit trail isn't just righteous. It's personal for him in a way I can't even parse. So this is revenge, I murmur. He shakes his head. It's math. He stole 2 childhoods, yours through neglect, mine through exile. Someone had to balance the ledger. Twist drops like that change the angle of every future scene, but there's no time to dwell. A news alert buzzes on my phone. Breaking: Senate Judiciary Committee delays final vote on Bennett nomination citing new documents. We exchange a look, equal parts terror and triumph. The story's breaking surface. Cameras will turn, pundits will salivate, but power rarely surrenders politely. I leave Malcolm to pack his go bag and sprint toward the Capitol again, because a call from Senator Lang herself just lit up my screen. Get here now. Your family's spinning their own narrative. As I cut across the mall, ice crunching under borrowed boots, I rehearse talking points: fiduciary duty, forged consent, misuse of charitable funds, FEC reporting violations. Yet beneath the legal jargon, another current throbs, something about illegitimate children erased, about bonsai trees kept intentionally small. This isn't only my fight. It's every story about power trimming potential for convenience. Inside Hart's South entrance, security waves me through. Senator Lang's comms director meets me at the elevator. She's brisk. Opposition counsel claims your mental health's unstable since your startup failed. They're prepping to dismiss the documents as delusional retaliation. I laugh too loudly in the cramped lift. The sound startles her. Okay, I say, then let's give them proof sanity can bite. When the doors open, I stride into Lang's office where marble meets fluorescent. The senator's steel-haired New Jersey blunt looks up from my affidavit. You sure you can handle televised questioning? She asks. Republicans will skewer you. Democrats aren't saints either. I shrug. Ma'am, I've built flood control sidewalks in Florida humidity. I can handle a little acidic spit. She smirks, then points to the bonsai pendant. Wear that on camera. People remember symbols. At 8:15 p.m., the committee reconvenes and the air in the room is electric with rumor. I'm sworn in right hand raised where Dad's hand hovered this morning. He sits 20 feet away, expression blank marble. Mom beside him clutching a rosary she probably found fashionable 2 hours ago. For a sliver of time, the silence feels heavier than any gavel. Then Senator Lang begins, Ms. Bennett, you have asserted under oath that your father and mother diverted funds from a trust established for your benefit. Please explain. My heart should be pounding, but instead it's steady like the tree's roots finally hit bedrock. I speak plain how the trust worked, how the scholarship funneled cash, how campaign finance laws got laundered through charitable fronts. Cameras, zoom pens scrape someone in the gallery gasps when I describe the forged consent. Dad's attorney leaps up, muttering objections. Lang silences him with a single tap of the microphone. Sloan sits frozen, 2 rows behind, cheeks wet, clutching that flash drive like a detonator whose countdown she can't stop. When I finish, Lang produces Malcolm's audit files, then turns to my father. Judge Bennett, do you wish to respond? He clears his throat. I love my daughters. Any actions taken were in their best interest and fully legal. The spin is so smooth, I almost forget what truth tastes like until Lang slides Grandma's original trust deed onto the desk, Nellie's looped handwriting shining beneath the lights. The senator leans forward. Tell this committee where in that document it says siphon funds to Judicial Futures Initiative. Dad's jaw works, searching for a safe harbor, but every wordless second is salt in his own wound. Just when the balance tips my way, a staffer rushes the dais, whispering, handing Lang a note. Her face clouds. She bangs the gavel once. This hearing will recess for 15 minutes. Murmurs explode. I glance at Catherine in the observer bench. She shrugs that she doesn't know. Security ushers us into a side hall. My phone buzzes. Unknown number. Thought you were the only player. Check live feed. I tap the link. A local affiliate shows footage of my Brooklyn apartment engulfed in flames, FDNY hoses blasting smoke curling into winter sky. Reporters say accelerant was used, tenants evacuated. One camera zooms on my door, the same one tagged earlier, now charred beyond recognition. The banner reads, Eco Startup Founder's Home Destroyed in Suspicious Blaze. Neighbors cite political motives. The hallway tilts. Someone steadies me, but their voice is muffled by the roar in my ears. They didn't just threaten the pot, they torched it. Every note, every prototype, every blueprint gone. And with it, years of nights believing I could fix the cracks in this sinking world. Rage surges hotter than the flames on screen. I taste metal and realize I'm biting my own tongue just to stay quiet. Catherine whispers, we can get you safe housing, freeze harassment orders. But I shake my head. Let them burn walls, I mutter. They can't burn roots. I step back toward the committee room door, shoulders squared. Security blocks me. We're still recessed. I stare him down with a fury I didn't know my face could hold. Then, unrecess. Because if the cameras cut away now, they'll never see the ash on my shoes. He hesitates, ear pressed to his radio, then stands aside. I march in pendant swinging like a battle standard, and the gallery hushes as if they sense smoke clinging to my coat. I take my seat, but before anyone else speaks, I lean into the mic and say steady as a metronome. For the record, at approximately 8:22 p.m. Eastern, my apartment was set on fire. Gasps ripple. If anyone here doubts what power looks like when cornered, check tonight's fire logs. Dad's eyes widen the first crack in his judicial armor. And there, in the hush, after my words, I feel the room shift, public empathy sliding decisively across the board. But just as momentum crests, Senator Lang's aide hurries to her, whispering again. The senator frowns, then addresses the room. Due to credible threats against multiple witnesses, Capitol Police are ordering an immediate lockdown. This hearing is suspended until tomorrow at 9 a.m. All parties will be escorted to secure locations. Doors slam, alarms click to life, and I'm suddenly surrounded by armed officers shepherding us through basement corridors where history's dust mixes with the smell of fresh fear. Somewhere above, protesters chant, sirens wail, and hashtags bloom like weeds across the internet. In the fluorescent tunnel light, the pendant glints, reminding me bonsai trunks can survive wildfire if the roots stay alive. Yet, as I'm hustled into a windowless safe room, a darker thought needles in roots only matter if there's soil left to plant in. And right now, I don't know how much of my life is salvageable from the ashes. The metal door seals with a hydraulic hiss. Catherine squeezes my arm. Sloane stands across the room, gripping the flash drive, tears drying into salt streaks. Dad is nowhere. Secret Service whisked him off separately. Mom, too. Outside, the city convulses in breaking news shockwaves. Inside, I hear only my own pulse and a question folding over itself. When the fire clears, will the truth still have oxygen enough to burn? The safe room. They locked us in feels like the inside of a refrigerated freight car. No windows recycled. Air walls painted that institutional beige meant to calm prisoners. Capitol Police stand at either end with rifles slung, eyes blank behind face shields that make them look more android than human. Fluorescents buzz overhead. Sloane paces like a caged cat, gripping the flash drive 30 feet and turn 30 feet and back, the little LED glinting in her hand every time she passes under the lights. Catherine sits cross-legged on the floor, tapping her phone like a telegraph operator feeding Tyler Nash fresh breadcrumbs. I claim a steel chair in the corner and force my lungs into a rhythm that's steadier than the panic clawing my ribs. My apartment is gone. My files are smoke. My father's confirmation is teetering on the edge of a Senate vote that might resume at dawn if we don't shove harder, and the only warmth I've got comes from the tiny sequoia pendant pressed between my fingers. I imagine its roots burrowing through the concrete beneath my feet, splitting floor joists like quiet dynamite. After 50 minutes of lockdown, an earpiece crackles. One officer announces we're being transferred to an undisclosed hotel. Evac vans wait in the underground tunnel system senators use to dodge weather and protesters. Catherine and I end up in the fourth vehicle. Sloane rides 2 vans ahead under separate detail, her choice, and I tell myself distance might keep her safer. During the ride, Catherine shows me Twitter, #Bonfire Bennett is trending worldwide, half the posts outrage, half conspiracy that I staged the fire for sympathy. Screenshots of me testifying cycle beside drone footage of blackened brick firefighters hauling charred beams through the hole where my living room used to be. Somebody zoomed in on a melted blur hanging near the window, my prototype flood tile twisted like modern art. Under it, a comment reads, "Guess her climate tech couldn't handle a little heat." I want to reply with every curse I know, but Catherine stops me. Feeding trolls is pointless oxygen waste. When the convoy reaches the hotel, granite discreet, no branding Secret Service sweeps us into adjoining suites. As soon as the door clicks, Catherine's all business. "We need redundancy. Your source files burned, so we grab Horizon servers before someone wipes them at 3 a.m. She explains the charity's data center sits in suburban Virginia, inside a converted bottling plant. Minimal guards because donors never see the back end. The court's preservation order might get signed overnight, but if Bennett allies phone the right judge first, those drives could vanish. Catherine already texted Marisol Diaz, my bulldozer colleague from the startup who moonlights in ethical hacking, to meet us there with a clone rig. You sure she's in? I ask. I sent your apartment photo, Catherine answers. She replied, Tell Ava I'm bringing gasoline of my own. We have a 2-hour window before cops know we're gone. Catherine changes into black jeans and a UVA hoodie, loans me spare sweats so I won't fight in Senate heels. As I stuff the pendant inside my shirt, its chain snaps cheap clasp, finally giving up. Reflexively, I tuck the silver tree into my pocket, bare metal, warming against thigh like an ember. Elevators are watched, so we take a fire stairs exit, duck through laundry, swipe a van left idling by catering staff. Catherine drives. I navigate on her burner GPS eyes ping-ponging between road signs and news alerts. Stations keep looping Dad's last line, any actions taken were in their best interest and fully legal, while commentators argue whether best interest is code for paternal entitlement or financial savvy. Every pundit misses the real story. Legality bends to money until someone drags the ledger into daylight. 40 minutes out, headlights carve through pine corridors. Industrial fences loom behind snowbanks. The bottling plant has one floodlight burning over a roll-up door and a red neon exit sign glowing behind wire glass. Marisol's hatchback waits near a drainage ditch trunk open to reveal pelican cases and a crowbar. We huddle beside the van's shadow breath fogging. Marisol fist bumps me hard enough to crack knuckles. They burned your crib, chica. Time to roast 'em back. Her confidence spices the night. Catherine lays out tasks she'll distract the lone night guard at the perimeter gate, pretending to deliver urgent legal papers. Meanwhile, Marisol and I slip in through a side loading dock she scoped last summer, while auditing Horizon's sustainability claims. The plan flows until variables collide in real life. Catherine peels off toward the guard shack. Marisol and I jog low along corrugated siding, snow squeaking under sneakers. At the dock, we find the padlock gone, replaced by a thumbprint scanner glowing midnight blue. Marisol curses in Spanish. Wasn't here last time. They upgraded. She twists her crowbar against the housing, nothing budges. I stare at the tiny red light inside the scanner, hungry for a fingerprint it can trust, and my brain flashes on Malcolm. He had full forensic clearance. I call. He doesn't pick up. Voicemail greeting clicks, then a rough male voice booms behind us. Hands where I can see 'em. We turn. Guard, mid-60s security jacket, 2 sizes too big, points a flashlight like a rifle. I raise my palms, adrenaline flaring. Marisol hides the crowbar behind thigh. I step forward into the beam, channeling every pitch I've ever sold. Sir Horizon's board just sent us urgent compliance audit FEC subpoena main network, flagged anomalous traffic. I rattle jargon like a slot machine until he blinks confusion, chewing at certainty. Then Catherine appears from the far corner, waving official-looking folders, shouting, "There you are! Senator Lang's office said you'd meet us at Bay 4, clocks ticking on the injunction." She shoves a badge under his nose, totally fake, but in floodlight, he can't read the seal. 2 more heartbeats, and he's ushering us inside to wait while he phones a supervisor. Once through the first door, we ditch pleasantries and sprint down cinderblock corridors smelling of stale syrup. Server room glows behind plexiglass rows of black towers humming like angry bees. Marisol plugs her clone rig into the main switch, then hisses. Someone encrypted half the drives an hour ago. They launched a wipe script 20 minutes and the rest auto-scrub, she mutters. I glance at the security cam above red light, blinking. We don't have 20. I scan labels until I spot the rack-tagged Community Med Scholars. That's the scholarship Sloan Road. I reach for the first drive, yank it free, alarm beeps. Steel shutters slam over glass behind us, sealing exits. Lights switch to crimson. Marisol stuffs drives into anti-static pouch as sirens echo. Over intercom, a disembodied voice snarls, "This facility is under federal protection. Remain still for law enforcement," but those aren't police tones, more private contract bark. Catherine curses from hallway. Guard probably radioed. She slams a fire axe against one shutter sparks. I shove the pouch into my hoodie and look for non-shuttered paths, only ceiling vents or subfloor panels. The bonsai pendant presses through fabric like it wants out. Bonsai survive by staying small until someone chooses to unpot them. I kick a floor grate, screws snap. Beneath cable troughs snake toward loading dock. Marisol drops beside me. We slither into darkness, lugging clone rig as Catherine blocks the corridor with a toppled metal cart. Boots pound behind her. We crawl 50 yards surface through an access hatch outside the fence. Snow halos under strobes, squad SUVs flood the gate, blue lights spinning. Catherine tumbles out, last coat torn, eyes wild. We sprint for the ditch dive into her van just as security rounds the corner. Tires fishtail, but she guns it. Fishtail again, finds asphalt. Shots bark, rubber bullets thunk side panel. Road disappears under us. 10 minutes later, we're on I-66 heading east, adrenaline scraping bones raw. No one talks until city lights bloom ahead. Marisol breaks the silence. Clones running. We salvaged maybe 90 gigs. If Horizons scrubbed the rest, these drives are the only copies. Catherine flicks wipers at falling sleet. Tyler'll meet us in 30. ProPublic'll image the data. Court order covers chain of custody. My pulse still jackhammers, but a strange calm unfolds under it, even if they burn every tree. Seeds still travel on wind. I pull the pendant from my pocket. Chain's gone, but trunk intact. I wrap it in a wallet photo of Grandma Nellie and slide both into Marisol's pouch with the drive's one living route among digital ones. Downtown D.C. looks post-apocalyptic after midnight barricades around the court news vans idling activists chanting under ice rain. Catherine guides us to a parking garage where Tyler waits, hood-up camera around neck. We hand him drives. He swears softly. If this is real, Horizon's the biggest dark money laundromat since Watergate. I tell him to vet twice before publishing lives on the line. He nods, already dialing. Phone buzzes again, Sloan. I answer, expecting sobs, but her voice is steel. Lang's staff got another ledger. Dad's Cayman pipeline is deeper. And Mom's lawyer just offered me full indemnity if I testify for them. She laughs broken, then whispers, Ava, you were right. Silence is complicity. I'm ready to break it. She reveals a twist I never asked for during med school. She shadowed a cardiologist who died of a hidden opioid habit. Watching him taught her secrets metastasize. I'll testify tomorrow, she says, but I need protection. If they torched your place, I'm next. I promise to arrange U.S. Marshals even though I don't know if Marshals shield witnesses from their own parents. We drop Marisol at a hacker collective loft drive secure. Catherine and I head back toward the hotel, but 3 blocks shy, a black Escalade swerves, cuts us off. Doors pop. Men in suits, not uniforms, flank us. One opens my door with surgical politeness. Ms. Bennett, Director Rodriguez, U.S. Marshals. We are relocating you to a higher security facility. His badge looks legit, but paranoia is muscle memory now. Catherine eyes him, rests hand on phone. He leans closer. Judge Bennett's motorcade was rerouted 15 minutes ago. Unclear hostile actor. We need you under our umbrella before this city eats itself. I ask for Lang's code phrase confirmation. He supplies it. Reluctantly, we follow. They usher us into the Escalade's backseat, windows opaque. As we pull into traffic, the director says, I'm authorized to share limited intel. Someone posted $1 million bounty on the whistleblower sisters. Offer originated offshore, bounced through crypto mixers linked to an account your mother accessed last month. My breath fogs the glass. Mom always hid behind charity smiles. Imagining her wiring blood money cracks something deeper than anger makes space for grief, maybe, but not yet. I ask what facility we're headed to. He says Jefferson Pier Safe Perimeter, an underground complex beneath the Washington Monument nobody ever admits exists. Car settles into silence, engine hum syncing with my heartbeat. Everything stripped away, apartment project's illusions. What remains is a core that feels strangely unbreakable. Tomorrow, the hearing resumes. Sloan will choose microphone over mask. Tyler will drop documents. Catherine will petition for criminal referral. Dad will stare into cameras knowing the daughters he shaped are dismantling the lie his legacy stands on. And me, I'll sit in front of that committee wearing a sequoia with no chain proof. You don't need gold links to keep history around your neck. The Escalade descends a ramp, doors lock, radio hisses white noise. Director Rodriguez turns slightly voice low. One more thing, Ms. Bennett. U.S. Cyber Ops traced tonight's data wipe trigger back to an apartment in Brooklyn. The device pinged once before going dark. Coordinates match your burned building. He hands over a scorched flash drive in an evidence bag. Label reads, "Property recovered at fire scene." I slide it into my palm, metal still soot-smudged, and a chill runs down my spine. Whoever torched my life stayed long enough to steal digital keys, then left this behind like a calling card. Catherine meets my eyes. We both know drives don't walk back into crime scenes unless someone wants them found, which means the real architect above Mom, above Pax, just stepped into play, and I'm holding their invitation. The SUV stops underground, gate clanks shut, and as armed agents lead us through concrete corridors that smell of damp stone and secrets, thunder rattles somewhere above the Potomac. For the first time all night, I feel the tremor of real fear, not of losing, but of winning, and discovering the pit goes deeper still. Yet beneath that quake, another certainty roots a tree only finds its tallest height after the fire clears the canopy. I press the charred drive against the pendant in my pocket, ash meets silver, and wonder what new growth might rise from their fusion. The safe room door swings open ahead, blacker than any forest night, and I step toward it ready or not because Dawn's verdict can't wait forever. The door seals behind us with a vault-grade thud, and suddenly I'm standing in the kind of bunker Hollywood invents when it wants to impress conspiracy junkies. Polished concrete ribs curving overhead, LED strips embedded like vertebrae in the ceiling, low hum of servers, more felt than heard. The marshals call it Jefferson Pier, but it feels less like a pier and more like the spinal cord of the city, a place built to keep the Republic's darkest secrets on ice until doomsday. Catherine tests the signal on her phone, dead, of course, then tosses it on a stainless desk. A tech in DHS gray asks for the charred flash drive. I hesitate, still weighing whether it's bait or evidence, and finally hand it over because everything about tonight has been a gamble and withholding cards hasn't exactly cushioned the losses. He slips the drive into a Faraday box the size of a shoebox tomb and assures me the contents will be imaged, hashed, and analyzed by dawn. Nothing about his tone hints at comfort. He sounds like a mortician promising to ID a body. The holding suite the marshals assign us has 2 bunks, 1 desk bolted to the floor, and a single security camera blinking in the corner. Catherine claims the top bunk and is asleep inside 3 minutes, her superpower. But my veins are still caffeinated with fear. I pace 10 laps, then sit at the desk and open the spiral notebook somebody left beside a room service-style breakfast voucher. The page is blank, so I start writing half diary, half war map list, every ally, every leak, every unspent asset. At the top, I sketch a tiny sequoia. The trunk lifts, branches spread, but the roots I draw extend beyond the margin where even I can't see them. Something my therapist once said echoes back. Trauma grows taproots. Yank it, and it only digs deeper. I stare at the drawing until my eyes blur, then flip to a fresh page and label it motive. That's the puzzle keeping me upright. Dad's desire for the court. Mom's addiction to reputation, those I understand. But who torches a building, dangles evidence in my burned doorway, and bankrolls $1 million bounty? There's greed, and then there's orchestration. This smells like the latter. Just before exhaustion finally shoves me onto the lower bunk, my watch vibro buzzes with a silent message from the Marshal Command Post 0630 briefing. Committee reconvenes at 9 sharp. Press waiting. I close my eyes for maybe 60 minutes of ragged microsleep, punctuated by dreams of concrete cracking under root growth, then wake to the taste of metal in my mouth, the bunker's recycled air, or the residue of adrenaline, who knows? Catherine is already dressed hair in a tight knot reading a printout. Prelim hash on the charred drive, she says. Mostly corrupted clusters, but they carved out a single MP4 that survived intact. She hands me a pair of wired earbuds like she's passing contraband. I jam them in hit play and watch a shaky selfie video of my mother inside what looks like a Gulfstream cabin. Her pearl bracelet flashes in and out of frame. The woman can't stop branding herself even mid-crime. She stares into the lens, voice low but oddly steady. Richard, if you're seeing this, the Hedgewood transfer went sideways. The trustee's daughter has the files. Call Whitfield, use the Venezuela channel, and cut Malcolm off the payroll immediately. We cannot afford loose ends on the other line of credit. She ends the clip with 3 words that punch harder than napalm: erase the tree. Erase the tree. Not burn the house, not silence the daughter, erase the tree. Something twists in my gut. Mom knew about the pendant, the bonsai symbolism Grandma Nellie embedded in me like secret code. Her message proves the arson wasn't random intimidation. It was aimed at my identity. A precision strike to pull my roots out of the ground and leave me drifting. Catherine reads my face. Doesn't need the audio. You okay? She asks. I pocket the earbuds. I'm incandescent. Because fury, this bright, isn't fire anymore. It's fission, and it will power whatever comes next. At 6:30, the briefing room fills with an alphabet soup of agencies, marshals, Capitol Police, Cyber Ops, Langs Council. Everyone talking timelines, witness routing, digital forensics. The senior marshal outlines our movement plan: armored SUV tunnel hop to the Senate direct entry, under armed escort, no hallway press stop. Lang wants my testimony: tight history of the trust proof of the forged details of last night's raid, and a late addition, the Gulfstream video. Catherine asks whether we can authenticate the clip before airing it in open session. Cyber Ops guy nods. The plane's tail number reflection of time-stamped in-cabin clock and a geotagged data packet embedded by the phone all line up. Mom's voice is on deck and admissible. We roll from Jefferson Pier at 0745, sun bleeding pink over the mall protest signs already bobbing at barricades. Sloan rides in the lead SUV, flanked by 2 deputy marshals who regard her like a drop of nitroglycerin, necessary but potentially explosive. Through reinforced glass, I watch her twist the flash drive between thumb and forefinger over and over, as if she could rub the truth smooth. When the convoy reaches the Capitol's subterranean dock, protesters spot us. Chants swell, a roar of righteous anger and tabloid bloodlust mixed into one soundtrack. Some call my name like I'm a hero. Others swear I'm a spoiled traitor. Catherine leans toward me. Your worth has never fit their categories. Don't expect it to today. I squeeze her hand once, then let go. Inside, Lang's staff leads us through service corridors that smell of floor wax and 20-year secrets. Outside committee room 226, Sloan stops me. Her eyes are red but steady. Whatever happens in there, she says, remember that every heart I've ever fixed never beat as hard as mine is beating for you right now. I fold her into a hug, feel armor under her blazer. Marshals gave her a vest, and the absurdity almost breaks me. We grew up sharing bunk beds and Christmas pajamas, and now our parents' lies require bulletproof polyester between us and the world. At 9, the gavel drops. Media lights glare off maple paneling. Dad sits at the witness table, legal team bracketing him like chess bishops. Mom is absent. Rumor says she's under medical observation, which probably means lawyers have stuffed her into a clinic where subpoenas can't easily stick. Senator Lang opens by noting new authenticated evidence necessitates additional testimony. She calls me first. I take the oath name and spell it, then dive. I describe the trust, the withdrawals, last night's server extraction, the Cayman route. I outline the arson produced, the charred drive now backed up and verified. Then Lang cues the Gulfstream video. The room chills. Dad's face hardens into something I can't read, but the corners of his mouth twitch, maybe fury, maybe fear. Cameras zoom, pundits salivate, Twitter probably melts. When the clip ends, I drop the finishing nail, erase the tree Madam Chair referred directly to this pendant. I hold up the silver bonsai for the gallery. My mother's words prove the fire was targeted intimidation, not random vandalism. The sequoia catches camera flash, and for a blink, looks aflame again. I sit. The silence shivers. Lang calls Sloan. My sister's testimony is clinical dates of tuition payments, her own ignorance of the funding source the day she discovered forged FAFSA attachments under her signature. She finishes by placing the flash drive onto Lang's desk. All donor correspondence for the scholarship, including discussions of politically useful optics, she says. Dad's attorney objects to chain of custody. Lang overrules. When Sloan steps down, she doesn't return to the family row. She sits beside me. That single choice speaks louder than her entire testimony. Opposing counsel tries every trick they question my startup's finances hint. I resented my sister's success imply Catherine planted evidence on Horizon servers. Lang's patience thins. She reminds them criminal referrals are on the table for perjury. Still, they score a hit when they reveal Malcolm's paternity link. Isn't it true your star witness is a disgruntled, illegitimate child harboring resentment, the lawyer sneers. I answer before Lang can object. If you're suggesting my father's pattern of betrayal extends beyond his daughters of record, you've just made my case stronger. Camera shutters burst like fireworks. The line trends in minutes. Lunch recess hits at 12:45. In the anteroom, Catherine checks her phone. ProPublica dropped the Horizon story. Board chair resigned DOJ Fraud Division opening inquiry. She glances at me. Momentum's ours unless someone pulls the plug. The phrase jolts me. Venezuela Channel Whitfield plug pulling, Hedgewood transfer. Names swirl until a thread knots Whitfield and Sutter Dad's legacy law firm, famous for mergers and asset relocations, happens to maintain Venezuelan shell funds used by Hedgewood Energy, an oil giant currently lobbying SCOTUS over environmental regs. Suddenly, the bounty money, the arson, the thumbprint scanner, they all smell of corporate panic more than parental rage. Catherine sees my gears turning. Say it. I whisper, Dad's nomination was never just ego. Hedgewood needs a friendly vote when their clean water appeal hits the docket. They pay Mom's charity Dad's PAC everything. If our data dump sinks him, Hedgewood loses billions. Catherine exhales, which means they have billions worth of motive to erase more than a tree. Before we can relay the epiphany, Lang's chief of staff bursts in, phone pressed to ear. Senator needs Bennett sisters in chamber now. Floor leader moved to force cloture tonight. Appears they have 50 votes, plus VP tiebreaker. My stomach drops. Procedural trench warfare is over. They're ramming the confirmation through before scandal metastasizes. Lang intends to stall with a filibuster of evidence, but she needs live witnesses on deck and airtight proof the arson connects to hedge fund influence, not just family greed. We have pieces the video Horizon Ledger server drives, but the Hedgewood tie is circumstantial. Catherine says we need a smoking algorithm campaign payments, scholarship donations, and the PAC wired through Hedgewood subvendors. Where to find it? The rest of Horizon's drives were scrubbed unless the encryption key sits on the charred USB the Marshall imaged. The first tech only mirrored data. He didn't decrypt. If Whitfield embedded a hidden partition that survived the fire, it might hold the final rope to drag Hedgewood under. Lang's staffer hustles us to a secured workspace, places a laptop preloaded with forensic tools. Cyber ops analyst plugs in the imaged file of the burnt drive. We hold breath as code scrolls. At first gibberish, then a header label appears, root ledger. My throat tightens. Root again, as if every villain can't resist plant metaphors. The analyst decrypts. Up pops a database folder of payment routes scholarship fund to Venezuelan, Shell to Judicial Futures Initiative Shell to Horizon Emergency Grants, each entry flagged with Hedgewood CFO authorization. The analyst whistles low. Catherine high-fives him, then drags Lang into the room. 10-minute huddled chain of custody forms flying. Decision: present the database on floor, then move to subpoena Hedgewood. But we still have to survive the full Senate vote tonight. At 4 p.m., Lang reconvenes the hearing for closing statements, but word leaks of the cloture motion. Reporters swarm the corridors. The building feels like a pressure cooker, steam valves rattling. Dad's lawyers whisper to each other, eyes darting. I see a flicker of calculation in Dad's face, like he's weighing whether to withdraw. He looks at me, not the courtroom, not the cameras, straight at me. And in that quiet laser glance, I catch something I've never seen before. Not anger, not disappointment, but regret. He mouths, I'm sorry. Maybe it's genuine, maybe a last-ditch PR gambit, but I register it, file it under too late, and stand when Lang calls me again. She asks a single question, Ms. Bennett, knowing the personal cost, why pursue this? My answer has lived in my bones since Grandma's funeral. I state it plain. Because you can prune a living thing only so long before it either dies or breaks the pot. I chose not to die. Every camera angle captures the pendant between my fingers. And because clean water, honest courts, and truth itself are things we either protect together or lose together. I sit. The gavel echoes. Lang then unveils the root ledger files on screen. The Senate gallery gasps, staffers sprint phones to cloakrooms. Opposing counsel tries one last Hail Mary challenges chain of custody because the drive was compromised by fire. CyberOps testifies to hashes GPS metadata. Motion denied. Dad's shoulders slump 1 centimeter. That's how 60 years of discipline shatter. But at 5:11, a runner from the floor charges in cloture passes 51 to 49. Nomination moves to final vote at 8. Lang's face whitens. Evidence hasn't reached full Senate yet, procedural collapse imminent. She whispers options to counsel emergency injunction need, federal judge not Bennett allies to issue TRO halting vote on corruption grounds. Catherine volunteers a name, Judge Lockhart District, bench reputation bulletproof. But Lockhart's courtroom is across the river and we have 2 hours. She can issue remote orders, but she'll want affidavit plus physical evidence delivered before she risks stopping the Senate. And I'm the only person who can sign new affidavit under oath, plus I'm still in protective custody. Lang turns to the marshals. They balk. Threat protocols don't allow witness to leave campus during active vote. Catherine argues it's our only shot. Standoff. Then Sloan steps forward. I'll stay here, give continuous public interview. Cameras on me means anyone targeting Ava has to do it on live feed. Taste of iron floods my mouth, my sister offering herself as decoy. Catherine glances at me. Decision time. Risk calculus. Leave safe perimeter, race to courthouse with evidence, or sit here and watch Senate confirmation steamroll centuries of checks and balances. I think of erasing trees of Hedgewood's pipelines of concrete sidewalks I designed to keep floodwaters off kids who can't afford Plan B if regulators gut the Clean Water Act. I think of Malcolm's flicker quick smile when he realized balance isn't revenge, but math. I turn to Lang. Give me a copy of Root Ledger, certify the chain, I'll get it to Lockhart. Lang nods once, orders staff to prep. The senior marshal protests again until his supervisor whispers in his earpiece. Higher clearance just came through, he says, grudgingly. Escort approved. At 6:03, I'm back in a black SUV. Catherine beside me, Director Rodriguez up front, a second vehicle tailing. Sirens clear the route. My affidavit rests in a briefcase cuffed to my wrist. Root Ledger drives ride in a foam vault on Catherine's lap. Rain needles the windshield. Traffic snarls around George Washington Parkway, but escort lights cut a corridor. I glance at the river water swollen brown against stone embankments. Somewhere upstream runoff overruns outdated storm drains work I could have fixed if I'd had funding. If. The word tastes obsolete. The only tense that matters tonight is future conditional if we get there in time. We approach Key Bridge when an explosion of brake lights blooms ahead, tanker jackknifed lanes blocked. Rodriguez swears spins wheel onto service road, GPS recalculating. Time bleeds. Senate vote clock keeps ticking. Rain intensifies until wipers can't keep up. Then radio crackles. All units be advised, potential hostile following sedan 3 cars back. I glance at side mirror. Dark sedan with blown headlight weaving through tail. Catherine slips a hand into her jacket, pepper spray, maybe pistol, I don't ask. SUV lurches onto side street grid of Rosslyn. Sedan follows. Rodriguez jams accelerator. I brace as we barrel through yellow lights, tires sloshing puddles. Siren wail merges with storm until sound becomes pure vibration. Sudden pulls, even passenger window rolls down, muzzle flashes. Bullet spider webs, our glass rebounds off armor. Still, my pulse staggers. Rodriguez swerves, sedan clips, curb spins 180, but rights itself and pursues. He radios for Arlington PD intercept. We fishtail onto Fort Myer Drive. Cop cruiser blocks intersection, sedan plows past, airbag deploys, it's over. Rodriguez doesn't stop. Courthouse is 10 blocks. At 6:52, we screech curbside. Marshals hustle us through metal detectors that chirp at the cuffed briefcase. Elevator ride feels like an echo chamber of pounding hearts. Judge Lockhart waits in chambers, gray hair pulled back, eyes like storm glass. She takes the evidence, reads my affidavit twice, asks 3 questions. Any doubt, chain of custody compromised, no, Your Honor. Any risk to broader national security if Senate vote proceeds? Yes. Are you prepared to testify to that under penalty of perjury? I already did twice. She nods, signs a temporary restraining order, stamps it with federal seal. I'm 7:18. Clerk fires electronic notice to Senate parliamentarian. TRO says no final vote on Bennett until corruption inquiry resolved. We exhale. But victory's never simple. As Rodriguez steers us back toward Capitol, our phones light, Senate Council rejected TRO claims, separation of powers shields confirmation from district interference. Parliamentarian defers to presiding officer, the vice president, to rule on order's validity. We are now in constitutional quicksand. Only the Supreme Court could override in real time, yet the seat in question is precisely the one at stake. Catherine mutters, "They'll seat him first, litigate later." Rain batters glass. I clutch the chainless pendant metal warm from my grip and realize no judge can plug this leak. Public opinion must. Livestream, I whisper. We drop root ledger raw before the vote. Catherine nods dials, Tyler Nash. He's camped outside Senate gallery with portable uplink, will blast files, authentication, Gulfstream clip, everything with one push timed to coincide with quorum call, so senators' phones buzz mid-roll call. We authorize publish at 7:46. 3 minutes later, hashtags detonate, #Hedgewood Gate, #root ledger, /erase the tree. Cable anchors read documents on air, jaws slack. Constituent lines melt Senate switchboards. 10 minutes from vote and the chamber hum I know from C-SPAN cracks. Senators huddle eyes on phones. Majority whip storms down aisle to talk to floor leader. Dad sits alone at witness table, straight-backed but pale like marble left in acid rain. And me, locked in an SUV descending Capitol ramp again, feel nothing but the steady throb of sap rising through a trunk that survived the fire. We park. Security rushes us toward the gallery but stop when a page runs by shouting, "Nominee has left the chamber." Cameras whip around. Dad is gone. Floor leader calls recess. Senate Sergeant at Arms announces nomination withdrawn pending further review. Collective gasp rolls through the rotunda like thunder. Somewhere in that roar, I hear the sound of a giant pot shattering. Relief hits sharp as broken glass, but before it settles, Catherine tugs my sleeve. "Brace," she says, showing her phone. Anonymous message, "Game isn't over. Roots burn underground." V, I know that initial. I picture Mom on her Gulfstream bracelet glittering a woman who never read Sequoia lore enough to know some seeds only sprout in flame. We won a battle, but she still holds matchbooks and probably Hedgewood's overseas channels, and Dad's exit may be her cue to light a wider field. Catherine meets my eyes. "Ready for the next round?" she asks. I glance at the chainless pendant, feel its weight redistribute the ache in my chest into something like resolve. "Roots don't burn," I say. They tunnel. Down the hall, reporters surge like tide chanting questions. I inhale square shoulders and step into their flood because the story's trunk just cracked open, but the canopy is still rustling with threats, and someone's got to climb high enough to map every branch before the next spark flies. If yesterday felt like sprinting across a minefield, today starts like waking on the battlefield after the smoke clears and realizing some mines never went off, they're just waiting for new footsteps. I spend the first hours after Dad's withdrawal doing interviews under a marble echo dome of the Capitol, each journalist hungry for the same headline: "Daughter topples Supreme Court nominee." They ask about corruption, about the fire, about how it feels to slash your own bloodline in half on live television. I keep answers short. Truth, law, and clean water in that order. And every time a camera light dies, I exhale a sliver of grief I can't afford to show on air. By noon, the networks have already moved on to the bigger fish. Hedgewood Energy stock plummets 12%, DOJ subpoenas land on 3 continents, and Senator Lang's office confirms a special counsel referral. None of that stops the voicemail on my burner from piling up with messages that range from marriage proposals to death threats. The threats I forward to the marshals, the proposals I delete without listening. The hate in both tastes identical. Catherine and I grab coffee in a side cafe thick with staffers and stale croissants. She scrolls through a briefing, smirks. Hedgewood just blamed everything on a rogue philanthropic consultant. Guess who they mean? I swallow bitter laugh. Mom's name still hasn't hit the indictment list, but the walls are closing. Our Gulfstream video kept her prints on the lighter. Catherine's phone buzzes again. She glances, stiffens. Data point: the Venezuelan channel triggered an outbound wire at dawn, 50 million to 3 shell cores tied to a boutique security firm. Victoria is paying muscle. My stomach flips. Hedgewood may bleed billions in court, but my mother is a surgeon. She'll amputate anything to save her public face, and that includes me. We relocate to Senator Lang's office for a debrief. Lang looks older overnight, yet fiercer, like oak bark after lightning. First item. Dad, through counsel, requested a private meeting with me. No press, no cameras. Lang advises caution. Catherine says absolutely not, but some reckless seed inside me whispers root work. If I don't face him now, the story fossilizes into villains and heroes, when real life is compost shades of gray. I tell Lang I'll meet under strict conditions. Neutral, Site 1, Marshall present, 30-minute limit, entire conversation recorded. She shrugs as long as I sign a waiver. Senate lawyers are happy. We choose the Library of Congress's Jefferson Building, marble tourists, impossible to stage violence without headlines. At 3 p.m., I walk beneath the frescoed rotunda pendant in pocket heart drumming. Dad sits at a reading table flanked by a single marshal and an unread copy of Origins of the Common Law. His suit hangs loose. 4 days of scandal can melt even a judge's starch. He stands. I stay seated, forcing him to lower himself to eye level. For 10 seconds, we say nothing, the hush of centuries-old pages buffering our breaths. Then he clears his throat. I came to apologize. The words sound foreign in his voice. Not for striving toward the court, I won't pretend ambition is sin, but for letting ambition grow larger than the oath I claimed to serve. I want to ask which oath: marriage, fatherhood, judiciary, but I bite it down. Questions are knives, but answers rarely bandage. He continues. He didn't know about the arson order, swears the bounty never crossed his desk, claims Victoria ran damage control beyond his reach. I want to believe. See flicker of the father who taught me long division at the dinner table, but trust now is a shattered microscope slide, pick it up wrong, and glass will slice. So I ask one thing. Why drain my trust? You always said self-reliance builds character. He sighs, ragged. Because Sloane's path aligned with the donors who could lift me. Yours didn't. He calls it calculus, not favoritism, and the admission hits harder than any betrayal. Love weighed against leverage. I lost. I stand to leave. He reaches, but stops inches from my sleeve. Ava. I plan to cooperate. But Victoria, she'll never yield. Protect your sister. His eyes brim with something like tears, and for a heartbeat I see a man who realizes the empire he built sits on ground turned to ash. Outside winter dusk bleeds into the sky. Catherine reads my expression, doesn't probe. We head for the temporary apartment DOJ assigned me, anonymous high-rise near Navy Yard. Elevator reeks of carpet cleaner and fear. The door to my unit opens to minimalist furniture, fresh laptop on a table, and a view of cranes above the Anacostia. I'm halfway through changing into sweatpants when power cuts lights, dead heater, silent city beyond windows flickering like a failing heartbeat. Catherine curses, reaches for phone, no signal. Emergency generators thrum in distance, but our building stays dark. A thud hits hallway, then another boots muffled orders. Catherine snaps into defense. She draws the marshal-issued sidearm from her bag, hands me pepper spray. She's coming, Catherine murmurs. I don't ask which she. We kill TV glow, crouch in kitchen shadow. Boots pass pause at next door, move on. In dim light, I spot smoke creeping under threshold, chemical, not fire. Catherine yanks wet dish towel, slaps it against gap. We retreat to balcony, but 12 stories up is no exit. Helicopter rotors beat somewhere overhead. Maybe news, maybe private security. Catherine whispers, Plan Delta, get to stairwell, descend to second floor, where a connecting parking structure offers multiple egress. We crack the door, corridor haze, thicker, now alarms, eerily silent. Sprinkler, sabotage. We run, low eyes stinging. Halfway to stairwell, 2 silhouettes emerge. NV goggles glowing. Catherine fires warning. They duck, return, flashbang. The world whites out. When hearing returns, I'm on floor, Catherine dragging me to stairwell, nose bleeding. She kicks exit bar, we tumble onto concrete steps, slick with water from broken standpipe. Boots clatter above. We descend blind curves. Each landing echoes like a courtroom gavel. On 9th floor landing, Catherine spots maintenance hatch leading into ventilation shaft. She shoves me through, follows, bolts grill behind. Inside metal crawl space, our breaths clang. She hands me phone, now showing single bar text from Sloane. Mom called. Said last chance to step away. I refused. Stay safe. I type you too, but signal fades. Crawl space dumps into janitor's closet and parking garage. Sirens outside, real cops this time approach. Catherine peers through slats. 2 men gear up at armored SUV with logo of the same boutique security firm Hedgewood funded. She scrolls through mental Rolodex. Whitmore Tactical, she mutters, specializes in asset extraction. Extraction meaning kidnapping witnesses before grand juries. My pulse spikes. We need a distraction. I remember pounds of ammonium nitrate in windshield wiper pellets stacked near loading dock. Green tech experiments the building's landlord stores for tenants, demonstrating eco-de-icers. Mix with diesel from generator tank, create smoke heavy enough to send private security scurrying while we slip past cops. Catherine eyes me like I'm crazy, then nods because crazy might work. We sneak to dock, rig 3 plastic bins with pellets, pour diesel siphoned via emergency hose. Catherine sets delayed flare fuse, thank you, Arizona childhood fireworks, and we retreat behind concrete pillar counting heartbeats. At 30 seconds, flares spark, smoke billows toxic white. Alarms finally wail. Security guys shout, radios crackle. Catherine grips my wrist, sprints toward opposite exit as chaos blooms. We clear the last barricade just as Metro PD cruisers screech in floodlight, blinding the mercs. Officers wave us down. Catherine flashes DOJ clearance. We're bundled into squad car driven 3 blocks before she explains, if cops take them and DOJ traces chain back to Whitmore, then Hedgewood. Distraction becomes evidence. At midnight, we regroup in FBI field office conference room, eyes red, clothes reeking of diesel. Tyler Nash streams footage of smokeout across multiple feeds the mercs caught on body cam yelling. "Package isn't here," Victoria said. Level 12 extraction. Victoria's voicemail leaks within hours courtesy of unknown hacktivist cell. Public turns feral. Memes cast Mom as Lady Macbeth gripping gasoline can. She responds with statement recorded in undisclosed location, blaming eco-terrorist daughters, insisting Horizon funds aid underserved children. Press responds with drone shots of children clinics padlocked this morning for tax fraud investigation. The narrative pendulum swings wholly our way, but at a cost. A cost I feel when Sloan calls sobbing from a Sears parking lot in Baltimore where she ducked reporters. "Mom's people threatened my residency director. Said funding for the cardiac wing evaporates if I testify again." She hiccups panic. I drive north with 2 agents, scoop her into backseat, promise DOJ witness relocation can protect her. But I see the crack fracturing in her resolve, a doctor's oath versus patients losing care if she speaks. Moral graft versus survival of hearts she treats daily. The miasma my parents created seeps into every vent until nobody breathes clean. Back in D.C., Senator Lang convenes emergency press briefing. She announces bipartisan committee to draft Sequoia Act and ethics overhaul for judicial nominations, campaign finance, charity transparency. She thanks citizen courage of the Bennett sisters and holds up bonsai pendant. I loaned her, saying it symbolizes growth unconfined by old pots. Cameras love it. Wall Street less so. Markets dip again. Hedgewood Files, Chapter 11. To protect assets while CEO flees to Dubai. Victoria releases another video now from an anonymous seaside villa, claiming she'll reveal truth about Lang's social engineering agenda. The word truth curdles in her mouth like spoiled cream. As dawn bleeds pink again, I sit on Lincoln Memorial steps, Catherine beside me, both of us too exhausted to talk. Joggers pass oblivious to the war fought across committee rooms and parking garages. I ask what's left. She lists tasks: secure Sloan's position, finalize criminal referrals, help Tyler vet the Whitmore link, arrange new residence for me. Then she says, almost gently, "And maybe plan what you'll do when the noise dies. Roots need soil, not just fire." I finger the Sequoia pendant, notice soot still increases. The chainless trunk feels heavier now, but maybe that's gravity reminding me I'm still alive. Phone buzzes. Unknown number with foreign prefix. I answer on speaker. A woman's voice, calm surf beneath venom. "Ava, darling, you burned my garden. People who play with matches seldom grow old." The line clicks dead. Catherine records number, already tracing. I exhale fog into morning air. Mom's gardening metaphor again. She never learned forest cycles. She thinks ash is ending when it's invitation. I remember Grandma Nellie's letter, use it joyfully. There's no joy yet, only smolder, but I feel seedlings stirring. Across the reflecting pool, the Capitol dome gleams, scaffolding of democracy still holding under storm weight. I should feel victory, but all I feel is the slow returning ache of mourning for everything torched blueprints, childhood illusions. Maybe Dad's soul. I close my eyes, see roots tunneling underground where flame can't reach. For the first time, I wonder what new shape will the trunk take when it finally breaks surface again. Before I can answer, Catherine's phone lights with an alert, Interpol red notice, Victoria Bennett. My chest tightens. The world hunt has begun. But within the same minute, Tyler messages, she's already on a private flight heading your direction. Destination line chills me. Portland, Oregon. the place where my new life is supposed to start, where Rosenthal Design waits, with open studio and clean slate. Catherine meets my stare. She's going after your future, not just your past. I stand, knees crack, resolve hardens. Then we go to Portland first. The next flight leaves in 3 hours. Across the sky, a flock of geese cuts a V migration pattern older than borders. I pocket the pendant, feel its weight settle like promise. The pot is gone, the tree is loose, and the forest she's running toward is home turf for sequoias. Time to see how tall truth will grow when it meets the rain. Portland greets us with a February downpour so dense the rental car wipers can't keep rhythm, and I can't tell whether the Pacific Northwest is baptizing me or warning me to turn back while I still can. Catherine drives west from PDX knuckles white on the steering wheel, while Sloane dozes in the back seat beneath a borrowed hoodie. Witness protection chaperones opted for a low profile on this leg, reasoning that rain fog and a city full of cyclists in Gore-Tex form a natural disguise. The marshals will join once local deputies confirm Victoria's tail number hits the tarmac. Until then, the three of us are a thin firewall between my mother and whatever scorched earth playbook she's bringing to Rosenthal Design Partners. Cole Washington texts the moment we cross the Willamette studio, secured staff remote, Helena waiting. An unspoken good luck hangs in the bubbles. 20 minutes later, we pull into a converted cannery on the riverfront, brick walls, lime-washed white cedar planters dripping with moss, solar shingles glistening like obsidian fish scales. This is where I was supposed to start over drafting spillway skyscrapers and wetlands-tiled schools. Now it's a rally point before the final round. Helena meets us inside the atrium, silver hair, pinned back, mud-spattered Blundstones, a reminder she still surveys job sites on foot. She scans our faces, absorbs the edge in our shoulders, then simply says, "Conference Room B," lights off phones in Faraday sleeve. We follow past models of biophilic high-rises and walls tiled in living lichens that glow faintly under blue grow lights. The juxtaposition architecture meant to heal set against the fever of my family's vendetta sharpens my resolve. Roots need soil, but trunks need daylight. Today I plan to offer both. Helena closes the conference room door, slides schematics aside, and boots up a secure terminal. Tyler's dump linked Whitmore Tactical to a shell in the Caymans registered by Horizon 2 days before the arson, she says. Interpol pinged Victoria's passport when she landed an hour ago, private strip in Hillsborough. We have maybe 90 minutes before she shows lawyers in tow. Catherine updates her FBI warrants, seizure orders, extradition channels. Sloane whispers that Mom left a voicemail begging her to reconsider testifying if she wants patients to keep their charity surgeries. My sister's hands shake. I cover them with mine and feel her pulse galloping wild. "No more pruning," I murmur, and she nods, eyes stinging. Helena pulls a cloth from her pocket, my bonsai sequoia pendant chain restored with a thin loop of reclaimed copper wire. She must have plucked it from Lang's desk before we flew west. Symbolism matters, but roots also crave conductive metal, she says, smiling enough to dent the tension. She fastens it around my neck. The copper is warm grounding. A security feed pops on screen, 2 black SUVs rolling through the front gate. Victoria steps out first, trench coat, cinched sunglasses, useless in rain, flanked by a man whose posture screams mercenary, and a lawyer lugging a briefcase like it's filled with dynamite. No cops yet, protocol dictates they shadow until a warrant can be served somewhere less crowded. That means the initial conversation is on me. I walk to the lobby alone, despite Catherine's protests. The rain through the skylight drums steady like a war heartbeat. Lichen tiles perfume the air with clean loam, masking the scent of fear. Mom enters, heels, clicking eyes, sweeping architecture, with the same appraisal she gives auction items. When she spots me, she removes her glasses, first time I've seen her pupils bare since the hearings. They are flat and dark, pupil swallowing iris like a total eclipse. "Ava," she says, voice low as chapel organ. "This space is lovely. Shame to see it, headline your obituary." Her opener would have gutted me last year. Now it feels like the hiss of a deflating balloon. I answer with measured calm. Federal marshals have a warrant. They'll be here in minutes. Turn yourself in, return the misappropriated funds, and we negotiate a lighter sentence. The lawyer snorts. The merc reaches inside jacket. Building security drones whir from ceiling laser pointers, painting red dots across his chest, courtesy of Helena's in-house system. He freezes. Victoria clicks tongue. You think I fear orange jumpsuits? Charities die when their matriarchs fall, Ava. Thousands of children's treatments vanish. Hedgewood collapses, pension funds bleed, janitors lose retirement. Your righteousness burns more than houses. She steps closer, rainwater glittering on trench like diamond dust. You want to plant your silly tree, fine. The soil you leave behind will be other people's graves. She expects guilt to sprout like weeds. Instead, rage unfurls leaves of steel. Those kids deserved honest funding, not laundered bribes. Janitors deserve pensions unhitched from toxic runoff lawsuits. You talk stewardship, Mom, but you prune lives for aesthetic, then blame the clippings for bleeding. My voice echoes off brick. A small crowd of architects peeks from mezzanine. Helena joins arms folded, witness to whichever story the walls will retell. Victoria softens her tone, almost maternal. It's not too late. Drop the crusade. Let me redirect the funds and endowed chair at Portland State. In your name, federal grant greasing for your wetland microcities. You'll build every dream. She reaches as if brushing hair from my cheek, but the gesture stops inches away. My pendant glints between us, copper chain catching lobby light. Her fingers tremble. Maybe she remembers telling Dad to erase the tree. I don't bargain with arsonists, I say, especially ones who poison rivers in exchange for lifetime achievement plaques. Sirens wail outside, first responders queuing. Catherine and 2 deputies enter, badges aloft. Lawyer protests. Merc steps back. Victoria raises hands, smile icy. Optics, she whispers as cuffs click. Never underestimate them. Deputies read Miranda while escorting her toward patrol car. Rain swallows her words, but I hear one last hiss. Roots rot too. I watch red-blue strobes ferry her legacy into night. For a breath, my chest hollows, childhood reels across retina. Mom teaching piano, nodding my science fair ribbon, promising the world was fertile if I behaved. Grief punches through armor, then ebbs, leaving space for something clearer than revenge, accountability. Inside, Helena wraps me in a hug that smells of cedar and wet wool. Boards will tremble for weeks, but we'll ride the tremor, she says. Your first assignment still waits. Cascade Commons, Water Positive District. She hands me a rolled blueprint. I unseal it. Towers with rain-skin facades funneling storm runoff through terraced wetlands into the Willamette energy-positive footbridges laced with algae glass. A note in her tight handwriting. Let it grow beyond margins. I blink back tears because someone is finally investing in my unpruned vision. That night, we convene at Cathedral Park under the St. John's Bridge, steel arches lit emerald against cloud. Marisol drives down from Seattle with Malcolm, who's out of hiding now that Whitmore can't reach him behind federal walls. Tyler live streams on a handheld rig. Maybe 50 locals gather, some holding candles, some holding printouts of the root ledger tree diagram. Catherine produces a black planter salvaged from my burned apartment, surprisingly intact after firefighters hosed the shell. Inside it sits the bonsai sequoia Nellie gave me, leaves singed but buds alive. I climb a muddy slope to a hole volunteers dug where city arborists cleared an invasive cherry stump last spring. The soil is dark, damp, fragrant with myrtle and rain. I lower the bonsai, break the pot with a rubber mallet, ceramic shards scatter like cracked eggshell. Roots spill white and tentative, tasting cold earth. I cover them gently, pack with mulch, and press one copper washer, a broken link from the original chain, into the dirt like a promise. In the hush that follows, Sloane steps beside me, stethoscope still draped around neck from clinic volunteer shift. She snuck in despite chaos. She kneels, places palm over soil, whispers something I can't hear, but know is a vow to heal beyond hospital walls. Malcolm pours a flask of storm water collected off Rosenthal's green roof. Droplets bead on needles like newborn pearls. Tyler's camera light bathes us, and for once, illumination feels less like interrogation and more like dawn. I straighten mud-streaking sweatpants, heart steadier than it's been since the first phone call. I tell the small crowd voice amplified by nothing but Oregon night air that sequoias need fire to germinate, that sometimes destruction is the opening chapter of regeneration, and that every corrupt dollar we exposed will be rerouted into a restitution fund managed by a board of auditors, Malcolm among them. I announce the Roots and Wings Fellowship, 40% of my restored trust now dedicated to BIPOC girls in STEM who pledge to plant a seedling wherever they build. Cameras flash, but the ceremony still feels intimate, like campfire storytelling. Catherine whispers that DOJ accepted Dad's cooperation. He'll testify against Hedgewood execs in exchange for reduced sentence. Part of me aches, part breathes easier. He chose to nurture truth at last, even late. Victoria faces extradition to New York on charity fraud and arson charges. Her video threats form the prosecution's Exhibit A. Hedgewood's board, under SEC siege, votes to spin off clean energy subsidiary run by an interim CEO pulled from Rosenthal's advisory council. Consequence bending toward restoration, not just punishment. Midnight approaches when the crowd disperses, raindrops thinning to mist. I linger by the sapling copper chain tucked inside parka and watch wind nudge fragile stem. In 200 years, if climate models don't lie and politicians don't backslide, this tree could crack the horizon. I may be bones, but roots I freed tonight could anchor ecosystems long after memory forgets my name. That knowledge is heavier than revenge and lighter than guilt, call it hope with calluses. Sloane shoulders her backpack, ready to catch a pre-dawn train to Baltimore. Residency waits, and patients still need repaired hearts. She hugs me hard, says, "Keep building places worth saving so I can keep saving people who live in them." I promise. Catherine heads to hotel case files under arm, ready for court at sunrise. Helicopter rotors fade over river news crews, bored now that the villain sits in jail clothes. The park empties until only Helena and I remain. She tilts her head at the sapling. "Designing a city is easier than designing forgiveness," she says quietly. "Concrete cures in days. Humans sometimes never." I ask if she thinks forgiveness is necessary for healing. She shrugs, rain catching lamplight on her hair. "Not necessary. But it's a nice additive, makes the mix more resilient." She hands me a small tube spores of native fern engineered to pull heavy metals from runoff. Spread these around the sapling next rainstorm. Cleans soil faster. I pocket the tube, feel weight of potential again. We part at the parking lot. I drive alone across Fremont Bridge, Willamette, shivering below city lights smeared by wipers. Inside the car, the radio plays low, a public station running a piece on the Sequoia Act gaining bipartisan momentum. Analysts debate whether public trust can be rebuilt. They don't know trust is a seed, not a statute. At the hotel, I shower scrub diesel smoke and courthouse sweat from skin. I place bonsai pot shards on windowsill, relics of a cage shattered. I open laptop, start drafting Cascade Commons water system spec sheet due Monday. But first, I title a personal document Unpruned Principles. Rule 1. Ask who profits from my doubt. Rule 2. Roots before branches, foundation funding must be transparent. Rule 3. Night never wins against seeds patient enough to wait for morning. I close the file, draw blinds halfway, leave window cracked for rain smell, and crawl into bed. Sleep drapes heavy, but just before surrender, I imagine future me walking down a Portland street 20 years from now, sun slanting through canopies of trees whose ancestors once fit in a teacup. Maybe a school kid will point at one and ask parent how it got there, and maybe the answer will be smaller than the saga that birthed it. Someone believed the soil could change. A vibration nudges me awake. Text from Helena timestamped 2:03 a.m. Storm water tank overflowed tonight. Your fern spores would love it. A smile tugs my mouth. Outside wind carries scent of cedar and river. I whisper goodnight to the sapling and good riddance to the pot, then let darkness wrap me not as threat, but as fertile ground. Somewhere beneath cathedral bark, a slow pulse of sap rises, and at its pace, unrushed by headlines, truth keeps reaching for the sky.